Hello, happy Wednesday, everybody. So, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Lindsey Hall, and I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach. And what that means, to me at least, because it can mean a ton of different things, but what it means to me is that I help women deepen into intimacy with themselves and with others, really own their power and their pleasure, and live a joyful life they absolutely love. It's what I do for myself. It's what I do for my clients. It's what I hope I can do for all of you. So as part of my work, I come on every week and do these live tea break chats and Q&As where I talk about what's been going on in my life for the last week or so. Whether it's happy stuff, hard stuff, good stuff, bad stuff, just all the stuff. And then I answer your questions too. So this week in particular, let's see here. I never really planned these. So I come on every week and I'm like, what are we going to talk about today? So you get very much off the cuff, authentic, real life updates, which, hopefully is good in the vibe that you're here for, because if you prefer a more polished, podcast chat, then please see yourself elsewhere. You get real life from me, non-polished. So this week has really been about kind of both and, as opposed to either or. So in so many aspects of our life, we grow up with this idea of like a binary. Things are this or that. It's either A or B. It's good or it's bad. It's right or it's wrong. There's room for you or me. I'm right, you're wrong. Something like that. And it's really ingrained pretty deeply into us. And off the top of your head, you might be thinking, that's not true. I don't know what she's talking about. But once you start paying attention to this, like this or that mentality, I guarantee you will notice it start coming up in more and more places. And really a big part of the work that I've done and that I do with my clients is shifting away from this either or and towards a both and. Things are not always, rarely are they a this or a that. There's so many occasions where it's both. It's this and that. It might not even be this and that. It might be this and that and that and that and that. And we talk about holding the duality of things, but even duality says two things. That means you're holding two things at the same time. But also, you can hold way more than two things. It's really more about multiplicity and holding lots of things at one time. And one way where this comes up is in emotions. So often we, like little kids, and I see it happening with my kids, where it's like, how are you feeling? Identify a feeling. You're probably feeling a feeling, right? As opposed to all the things you could be feeling at one time. And so you can be super excited about your best friend's engagement and heartbroken and devastated because you're going through a divorce. Or you can be a big one that really comes up, and I know I personally have felt this when I couldn't hold the duality, the multiplicity as well. And I know so many friendships who this is affected. It comes up in baby world quite a lot. So I had a friend where she was telling me about her third miscarriage at the same time that I was telling her about my first pregnancy. And it was hard as hell for us. And it broke us for a while, to be honest, because we weren't able to hold we weren't able to hold her grief and my happiness at the same time. We just didn't have the capacity for that at the time. Good news is we have since recovered, because we have both done a lot of work, both personally and together in our relationship, and we're good these days. But anyway, that was not the point of this chat. The point of this chat is about the holding multiple things. And that's what's come up this week. And in particular, if you've been watching this for a while, I really do not love wishy-washy non-specifics. It's not It drives me insane when I hear people talk wishy-washy, non-specific. And I'm not very good at it because I like to just be fully upfront, but also not everything in my life is entirely my story. It involves other people. It's not all mine to share. And I am still, I've been doing these lives for over a year now. And I'm still playing with like what's mine to share and not share, and how do I talk about it in real time without being super awkward and yet also not giving too much away. So please, forgive me as I figure this out. What's the song about? I'm still learning. It's called Human. Still learning to be human. And I'm still learning to be an online visible coach and be human, because all those things happen at the same time. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on loads of tangents today. So the thing this week, back to that again, was holding space in my life for somebody else who was going through some messy, deep shit. And I had my own feelings about this. To be honest, I was pretty mad. The stuff that this other person did affected me, and I was mad about it. I was sad, cried. I had some stuff that I felt about it. And I really had to pull on a lot of the work that I have done on myself over these years, and done like a lot of the tools that I use to hold room for both. Because at first I was like, I don't know how to hold room for this. I don't know how to be open and curious and find out kind of your side of what happened here. And really, I wanted to be curious, to be open, to ask exploring questions, to hold that space, to be non-judgmental. Absolutely did not want to add any more shame to a situation that could be feeling like they could have been feeling shame about this anyway. I did not want to add any shame to that. I wanted to be all of those, like, my highest self and my ideal life coach self who could like hold all of that stuff. And also my human had, like I said, I was angry, I was sad, I was crying. Like I had thoughts and feelings and was impacted, and I had things to say, but I was worried that by telling that stuff, it would add shame, it would add to the burden, it would somehow make things worse. And I had to really go into the belief that, wait a second, it's not either or. It's not open and ready to hear your side of the story or be mad and tell my side of it. It's both. I get to have my feelings and explain how I was impacted, and I get to hear your side and hold the space for you. And really holding those two things in the same conversation. And it's big stuff. Like this is, and like I said, I've been doing this work, I've been practicing, and it still is big stuff this weekend to being like, okay, there's room for both of these, and learning how to set up these conversations with somebody. So, not if you go into tough conversations, like on the attack, be like, what the hell? Explain yourself. That doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that conversation's probably not going to go very well, is it? Not the ideal way to handle things. But obviously, we are humans. We get charged up, fired up. We have emotions about things. But learning too. So for me, what I did this weekend was I know now to not skip over those emotions. Skipping over them or pretending they're not there only makes them come out later at a different time when I probably have less control over it. So instead, I let myself be with those feelings. I journaled, although I actually didn't journal very much because I was so mad and emotional that I couldn't even get the words out. I started journaling and I was like, rah! And then that was enough. So I stood up and felt my feelings. It was like, I stomped around. I was home by myself at this point, by the way. Stomped around and let myself just rage cry. And then after a little while of that, my rage crying, it started to simmer. The anger was just leaching out of me. So the rage crying calmed down into just sad crying. And then the sad crying, after a little while, trickled down even more. And then, to be honest, I just fell asleep and took a nap. Then my body was like, whew, those were big emotions. We're done now. But the point is, I didn't rush through them. I let them happen, and I I voiced my my feelings, not to the person. So this is key. And like I said, I was home alone at this point. I wasn't raging at the person. I wasn't like expressing all this in its full blown emotional state. My process was to express all of that by myself. And then when it came time for the conversation, I still got to recognize those feelings, but I wasn't all up in them. I wasn't throwing my raw, unprocessed hamburger at them. There's a co-parenting coach I follow on Instagram, or I'm friends with, his name is Jay Skibbins. So if you are co-parenting, single parenting, get yourself on Instagram to follow Jay Skibbins, Jay Skibbins. He's amazing, super insanely helpful, and he talks about your raw, unprocessed feelings as raw hamburger. So rather than throwing my raw hamburger and being like, here, you have it, now you can have it, and it'll make you sick too. Instead of that, I got to process my feelings, do the shit on my own, so that when it came time to talk with the other person, it was like, okay, let me tell you, or actually it wasn't even a let me tell you. Scratch that. The important thing here was setting up the conversation and saying, I trust that this can bring us closer together, and I want to have space for your stuff, and can I share with you my stuff? And when they said, yes, you can share your stuff, then I could, from a regulated position, say, okay, here's how I felt. Here's the impact it had on me. And all of that, as you can probably imagine, was far more effective than raw. Now, this doesn't let somebody off the hook. It doesn't make what they did okay. It doesn't add judgment or shame. It is an invitation to intimacy. It's an invitation for the two parties to come together, share their side, hear each other, see each other, really use it as a connection and go, this stuff is hard. It's really hard. And instead of severing the connection, instead of making it worse, turn towards each other and go, okay, let's dive in. Let's do this. Let's explore what happened. Let's hear each other out, and let's figure out what kind of repair, if anything. Sometimes there's repair that's needed. Sometimes there's not. But let's figure out what we do from here together from a calm, regulated position instead of a worked up in your trauma response, like trauma response, the fight, the flight, the fawn, the freeze, the I'm going to make everything okay, or the, there's the trauma responses are real in your body and they need dealing with. But that's the work that I do, is when my trauma responses kick in, like they had earlier in the day, my body is dysregulated, I use these tools to come back and to regulate my body. I use pleasure to come back and to regulate my nervous system. I bring all of it. I deal with the feelings. I sit with them. I meet the moment that I'm in, do with all that. And then I use these tools to calm my body again, to tell my body I am safe, I am okay, come back more regulated, and then can dive into the intimacy work from that more regulated position. Side note, that's what everything that I do pretty much is all about. So we all have traumatic experiences in our life, like old trauma, new trauma, current trauma. Sometimes even just like receiving an email can trigger a traumatic response in our body. You can receive an email and your body goes into like fight or flight mode. So our bodies are constantly being triggered by these trauma responses. And that's why I talk about pleasure so much. Pleasure is one of the things that can bring us back in and regulate our nervous system. So this work is all about learning how to pull apart the actual danger that you may be in and the perceived danger, which is far more common, and notice when you're in a dysregulated state. Use the tools. We've got various embodiment tools, we've got pleasure, but it's using all the stuff that we do together in our work to bring us back down to a regulated position. Use pleasure to do that as well, and then dive into the intimacy work. And then you dive into the healing, if there needs to be healing. If it's like an email, that's not a healing that needs to happen. That's just like, okay, regular body, open the email, deal with it, do the thing, move on. or whatever else thing may be. But so much of this work is coming back into a regulated state. And that is, the ongoing, never-ending nature of this work, and also the insane importance of it. Because like I said, we all have this all the time, whether it's triggers from past that happened to us, or evolutionary triggers, or like just anything. There's stuff that like affects us, and we need to be able to, how am I going to write that in my summary? Today I talked about this stuff that to us, and the way I have to somehow put that into words. Okay, let me see if there's anything else I want to say on that. I think really just the final piece on that is the fact that it doesn't necessarily come easy. This was a big conversation, and it took me some prep ahead of time to really think about, how do I want this to go? How do, what do I want the outcome of this conversation to be? How do I want to show up for it? And I drew on, like I said, the years I have been doing this work, and it took me, I was coaching myself through it, and I had my coach in Voxer helping me out. But really being so proud of how we showed up in this moment. We, as in me and the other person that was having this big conversation, and really leaning in towards intimacy, and how when you switch it from like, this thing happened and therefore, somebody has to be punished or blamed, or there has to be consequences or anything like that. When you shift it to, okay, I'm curious, I want to use this as a chance to get closer. How do we have room for both of our stuff? It can be an absolute game changer in relationships of any sort. So this does not matter whether you are talking about your co-parent or your boss or your colleague or your kid or a romantic partner or anybody at all. These skills make a huge difference to any of our relationships, which is why they are so worth learning and practicing over and over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that. Okay, on to the questions, because I think I talked too long on that part anyway. And the questions I have, the first one's a big, big doozy, and the second one's really good too. So the first question that I had was, how do you move forward from an ex-spouse, a spouse who left you, got a new partner, now wants to make it work with you? How do you deal with that situation? And how do you stop caring what everybody else thinks is the right or wrong answer? Now, this is a big question, and I will say that the person who sent it to me said, I'm not sure I can be able to answer this in that time, but I told her I'm going to try to answer this question in here, at least in the best that I can. But obviously, always shout out for one-to-one coaching if you want more specifics in your situation, if you want to dive into your exact stuff. That is the benefit of one-to-one coaching. But I'm going to do it on here because I said that I would. So, and I can start by saying, I feel ya. Like, absolutely, from personal experience, been there, done that, been left for somebody else, then been told, oh, but I also still want to be with you. Took us a long time to find a resolution on that from my personal experience. So I can tell you that A, I understand it totally sucks. B, it's not about waiting for somebody else to make a decision. It's about you making a decision for yourself and you getting clear on what you want. And that can be so hard when you are hurting like hell. But really, it is about checking in with yourself. And actually, this is kind of the answer to both of those questions, sort of, whether it's, what do you do in the situation if your ex maybe wants to make it work, maybe doesn't, is with somebody new, but saying maybe they can make a chance with you or not. And also, what does somebody else think about it? The answer for all of that is you're the only one who knows, really. You and your partner / ex-partner know your relationship better than anybody else, no matter how close to you they are. You two are the only ones in your relationship. And you, in particular, know you best. You know what your soul needs. You know how you feel about things. And so whether, if you're making the should we get back together and have another go decision, absolutely fuck anybody outside of your relationship. Does not matter one little bit what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter about your best friends or your parents or your siblings or anybody. Absolutely fuck them. That doesn't mean they don't have useful things to say. That doesn't mean you can't use them as sounding boards, etc. But ultimately, nobody can make this choice except for you. And you do have those answers inside of you. You absolutely do. It might not seem obvious because we get so out of touch with listening to ourselves and finding our answers, especially if it's starting with the big thing like this. Like trusting ourselves to make a decision this big is really hard. And it's not actually all that uncommon for somebody to do this, where they leave their spouse and their family, get with somebody else, and then want to come back. Like it's hard to be the one to say, no, this family life that we created is changing dramatically. It is not this anymore. I didn't want to use the word ended, because if you're going to be co-parenting in any sort of arrangement, no matter what it looks like, if the other party is going to still be in the picture, then the family life doesn't end altogether. It just changes dramatically. The relationship changes its whole status. But it's hard to be the one to say that. It's hard to trust yourself with such a big decision. So it's the same whether it's were the one who got left or whether you're the one who did the leaving. You have those answers inside, and it's really getting quiet with yourself, learning how to hear what's inside, and then trusting that. So what anybody else thinks, like that, like I said, it takes practice. And on a practical note, that might mean, like, if you've got people in your life who are telling you what you should do, like you should get back together, you shouldn't get back together, don't trust him, but he's the father of your children, this, that, the other. It might be that you have to say, listen, I really appreciate that this is coming from a position of love for me, and I appreciate that. And also, that's not the kind of support that I need right now. The kind of support that I need from you right now is this. And maybe this is, I need you to just love me, but keep your opinions to yourself. I had to ask my mom and my sister to share their opinions with each other instead of with me. I knew that they were trying to give me advice from their hearts and out of love, but I didn't want to hear what they had to say. So you guys can tell each other, but please don't tell me. That worked really well, actually. So it might be that you ask people to keep their opinions to themselves. It might be that you say, what I could really use right now is this practical support instead. Or maybe it's just, it's enough to just know that you love me, and I will ask you when I need something more than that. So practical step, it could be that. But the decision is up to you and not anybody else. Nobody else can give you that answer. Not even me in coaching. Like, I will never be able to give you a stay or go answer, but I can help you learn to find those answers in yourself. In terms of, but when I'm talking about you coming to this decision yourself, and it's not all, you don't always get what you want in this case. So you might decide, yes, I do want to get back with him. I do want to make it work. And then he might decide, actually, no, when I left, I meant it. So it doesn't always come down to you. I need to say that too, that we do not always get a choice in this. And you can't change anybody else's opinion for them either. So in the same way that you get to make your choices, everybody else gets to make their choices too, and you cannot make that choice for them. And honestly, trying to force anybody into a choice that they don't want, not going to be sustainable anyway in terms of relationships. So trying to convince somebody to come back, trying to convince somebody to stay, etc., when they don't want to, might work temporarily, unlikely to work long term. So really coming to terms with the understanding what you can control and what you can't control is absolutely essential here. And all you can control is your actions, your doings. To some extent, your thoughts, but actually your thoughts tend to come and go on their own. You can control your words. You can control you. That is it. You cannot control anybody else, and equally they cannot control you. So really focusing on that a lot is also going to be a big piece here. Okay. I think that's all I have to say on that one. I know you thought that was a big unanswerable question, so you may be listening to this being like, oh, that was useless. Why, like, should have saved your breath. But hopefully you're not. Hopefully that helped a little bit, because it's big stuff, but you can get through all of it. You will get through all of it. And again, you know where to find me if you want to do some one-to-one coaching on the specifics of your situation. If anybody is listening to this and being like, oh my God, I need some help learning how to listen to my inner voice. Like, you're telling me the answers are in there, Lindsey, but like, I don't know what the fuck I'm listening for. I gotcha. I can help. I didn't know I had answers inside me. I was like, absolutely not. I thought I needed to like crowdsource every decision ever. I had no idea how to trust myself and to hear my inner voice or that to trust it. And I have done a lot of work on that over the years for myself and for my clients. So absolutely, if you're sitting here hearing this and being like, yeah, no, I can't make that kind of decision, like not a chance, you can, and I can help you. So send me a message if you want to book in for a taster call. We've got 30-pound taster sessions. We can jump on a call. Or if you want to go straight into a one-to-one coaching package, we can do our free intro call to see if we're a good vibe, good match together, and we can go from there. So send me a message, find my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com, send me a carrier pigeon, whatever you want, we can chat about it. I also, one more plug, and then I've got another question to answer. The other plug is I've got a program on my website called The Divorcee. It has some pre-recorded modules, some of which I've just said. Some of it's in there, like the bit about like only you can make this decision. There's also a whole bunch of other useful stuff in there. So if you want to check out the Divorcee program, you can do that too. Okay, last question. How much time have I got? I think I need to talk quick. And then I've got to go get my kids from school. Wednesdays always fly by. So the last question I had was, when you are working on a new mindset, what practices do you put in place and how often? And actually, that question kind of made me stop and go, good question. Because it kind of depends on the particular thing I'm working on. So I don't just have one set answer for this. But if I'm doing, like, if I'm trying to change my mindset, if I'm like, you know what, I've discovered this old belief that does not serve me anymore, or I didn't even choose it in the first place, like this particular line of thought, not helping. I want to replace it with this other new line of thought instead. I journal. Doesn't take you long hanging out in my world probably to realize that I'm a big fan of journaling. I've got it right here, always near at hand. So I will journal. I will journal out maybe the fears about the old belief, what I think I want to replace that with. I write about the new belief. There are specific exercises you can do too. I've got a little toolkit of specific exercises on changing like specific mindset beliefs. But in terms of, what I do personally on myself, it will be journaling about the new belief. It'll be writing affirmations. So writing like, let's see here, what could be an example? If I've got a belief that my business is never going to make enough money to support me, and I'm trying to change my mindset about that. So I want to replace that with my business brings in as much income as I need to support me and more. My business brings in an abundance of income. I will journal in lots of different ways. I will journal about like, what would it feel like to have my business supporting me with its income? How would I show up if my business was already supporting me this way? I will write a list of affirmations. I will write, money loves to support me. My business brings in more than enough money to pay my bills, and I am overflowing with abundance. Money is energy, and the energy wants to support me. My business loves me and is wants to support me. There's an overflow of clients waiting to work with me. Clients want to pay me for my work. My clients are all finding their way to me right now. Clients love to say yes to working with me. They love to pay me their money. Do you get the gist of that? I would write a list of affirmations supporting the new belief, and the writing of those helps. The writing of the affirmations helps with the mindset, and then I do them on a regular basis. So then I will read them out loud to myself, because your brain then starts to form new pathways. Your brain doesn't know actually like what's true and what's not true. It only believes what you tell it. So if you're telling it, my business will never make enough income to support me, your brain's like, yep. And if you tell it, my business is going to support me, your brain's like, okay. It might take a bit more convincing because the old belief has been in there longer, and it takes some reworking, but that's why repetition is so wonderful. Saying it out loud helps. Moving while you do it helps a lot too. Moving helps create new neural pathways. So you can do the list and then get up and move your body. You can do your list of affirmations while you're going for a walk. You can do the movement at the same time, but the movement really helps create new neural pathways and changing those beliefs. I also put them on Post-it notes around the house. So I'm a big fan of Post-it notes. I don't have like other people come to my house very often, but occasionally somebody does, and I'm like, probably look like a total weirdo. And you can always tell like what it is I'm working on and like the scary thing in my brain at the moment based on what the Post-it notes are. But so like combining these two questions, so combining the last one, I, for a long time, had several Post-it notes in my house saying like, focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. Because it was really hard for me to stop trying to control what other people did, decided, etc. I wanted so badly to be able to influence what was happening from somebody else. And I can't. And I really had to learn. And it was a big mindset shift. But my goodness, has it saved me loads of energy and made me way happier to just let go of the shit that I can't control. Let it go. All it does is drain my energy. I want to spend that on other stuff. And thank goodness that's worked out better for me. But that was on Post-it notes. So that I could repeat that over and over. And then the Post-it notes also help remind me to show up as though that new belief is true. Just basically fake it till you make it in that particular case. And that doesn't mean nonstop, doesn't mean you won't slip back, but it helps me to go, okay, I'm just going to try this on for a little while and see how it feels. Like try on the new belief. What if this was true? How would that feel? And I'm going to show up as though it was. And like, I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they are fantastic in playing make-believe games. I spend hours sometimes pretending to be a dog, sometimes pretending to be a dog who's pretending to be a cat. Sometimes I'm pretending to be a dog who's pretending to be a cat who's pretending to be a dog. It's very confusing around here. But anyway, I can try on all these things because I've got a lot of practice with my kiddos. So I do the same thing with me. I go, okay, I'm going to pretend that I already think this is true. I'm going to pretend that I already think I can do this thing. And I'll just play with that for a while and see how it feels. And it's amazing how it like seeps into you and becomes your norm. It's not like a one-time fix and, it's all great. But these are the practices that I put into place to help me make those shifts. Anything else? I guess the final piece I would say on that is I do find it helps to share them out loud as well, or whether it's like verbally out loud or in a Facebook group. So finding for me, I'm in like coaching groups, with other coaches, and where you're encouraged to share this stuff, to share the big scary things. And so you can go in and be like, hey, I'm going to try this new belief, or like, I'm going to throw this out there, and like, let yourself be witnessed and seen in it. And that can be super, super powerful too. So yeah, I think that's all I've got for you this week. I think. Okay, I can't think of anything else. So I will leave it there. I've already done my plug for one-to-one coaching. So if you want to do one-to-one coaching with me, come on in. It's my absolute jam. I love it. I love helping you take these mindsets, making a change from this other thing that was not serving you to something better. Love, love, love. If you are going through a divorce and I can help make this any less shitty, I am so here for that, because it's pretty shitty, let's be honest. And if there's anything I can do to help you feel like you might actually get through the other side in one piece, rather than that feeling of like, I'm tumbling upside down and I don't know where I am or how I'm ever going to resurface again, we can help you get out of that feeling and into, okay, this is hard, but I'm walking through it. I can help do that for you, with you. I can't do it for you. I'm really sorry, but I can do it with you, and I can guide you and hold your hand and make it feel less scary. So we can do that. We can do all the things in one-to-one coaching. So if you're interested, check out my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com. Elevate is my 3-month amazing package where you get 3 calls a month and you get Boxer, which is where you get me on texting and voice note, like in your pocket Monday through Friday. So you get so much more coaching that way, like insane amounts of coaching for when you're there for like all the things. So you've got that. That is all my Elevate package for 3 months. And that is $888 a month. There's also a smaller session on there, or you can book a taster session for £30 for the first session. And like I said, you can go on my website and find the programs that I have as well. I think that's it. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know next week. Oh, speaking of next week, I'll be back next Wednesday to do this. So if you've got a question for me, leave it in the comments, send me an email, hello@lindseyhallcoaches.com, which is in the show notes, if you will. My email just should be in there, hello@lindseyhallcoaches.com. Send me a message on Instagram, like do all the things. I always put a question box up on my Instagram stories on the Tuesday, ready for you to fill in for Wednesday. You can do it that way too. And I will answer your questions live next week while I talk about whatever's going to come up in this next week, because who knows? Life just keeps going, doesn't it? Life is never ending. That's not true. Life ends. While we're in it, there's always stuff going on. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to stop before I get myself all tangled up. And I'm going to go get my kids, and I will see you all next week. Mwah.